Have you ever wondered what the actual breaking point for a society is? Today, we're diving into an ancient text, Jeremiah chapter 9, that honestly it reads like a postmortem on a failed state. It gives us this incredible blueprint for the anatomy of a collapse, but not through geopolitics or economics. It's through a theological lens. So let's get into it. Right off the bat, the text doesn't ease you in, it just confronts you with this massive, haunting question. It's not really asking what happened, but why. Why does a land, a whole culture, a people just perish? The rest of the chapter is basically a direct answer to this one profound question. All right, so here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with that central question. Then we'll unpack the direct cause the text gives for the nation's ruin. From there, we'll look at the pretty bitter judgment that follows, expose the pride that led to the fall, and finally, uncover what the text points to as the true source of glory. Okay, so let's start with the problem itself. The text frames this whole national destruction not as a simple military loss, but as a kind of theological puzzle. The argument is that to really get what happened, you need a specific kind of wisdom, one that goes way beyond just a simple historical analysis. So, what is this wisdom it's talking about? Well, it's not about being politically savvy or having a bunch of academic knowledge. It's something called covenant understanding. Basically, it's the ability to see what's happening in the world through the framework of God's promises and his warnings. It's a completely different way of looking at history. So if you need a special kind of wisdom to understand the problem, what's the answer it gives? Well, the text doesn't leave us guessing. It points to a direct, super clear cause for the collapse, a deliberate rejection of a standard they all knew. And you see it laid out here, crystal clear. Two paths. On one side, you have God's law, which it says was set before them. It was public, it was known, there was no mystery. And on the other side, their choice, to walk after the imagination of their own heart. I mean, that's a powerful way to describe a society where personal desire just becomes the ultimate authority for everything. And the crucial thing here is that this wasn't some slow, accidental drift into ignorance. The text describes a conscious rebellion. They deliberately abandoned God's law and they replaced it with their own feelings. This inner rebellion then showed up on the outside through the worship of Balaam, these local fertility gods. And what's really chilling is that this had become an inherited tradition, passed down from father to son, until it was just completely normal. So if that was the cause, what was the effect? This is where the text shifts, and it uses this incredibly vivid imagery to describe the harvest of this national rebellion. And believe me, the tone gets really, really somber. Wow, I mean, this is a terrifying reversal of that original promise, the land flowing with milk and honey. Instead, they get wormwood and gall, which are symbols of extreme bitterness and poison. The very source of their national life is turned into suffering. This isn't just physical devastation, it's spiritual, it's emotional. And right here, we see the ultimate reversal of the covenant. The promise was to be gathered in the land, the judgment is to be scattered among foreign nations. Exile wasn't just moving to a new place, it was the complete dissolution of their national identity. It was the fulfillment of warnings that had been given centuries earlier. You know what's so striking here? The text doesn't just predict the disaster. It commands them to start grieving it now. They're told to go out and hire professional mourners, women who are skilled in the art of lament. This just shows that the judgment isn't some future warning anymore. It's a present reality that has to be faced and felt and actually embedded into their cultural memory. The text here literally personifies death as this unstoppable invader. It doesn't knock on the door, it climbs through the windows, it bypasses the streets to get straight into the palaces. This imagery powerfully communicates that absolutely no one, no matter their social class, no matter how much security they thought they had, was safe. So the collapse was total. It spared no one. And this leads the text to pivot. It moves from just describing the what of the disaster to really exposing the why of their vulnerability. It becomes this sharp critique of all the false securities that people were trusting in, all of which completely failed them. So the text just systematically dismantles the three pillars of human pride. The wise, well, they couldn't strategize their way out of it. The mighty couldn't fight their way out of it. And the rich, they sure couldn't buy their way out of it. Everything their society valued and glorified was proven to be utterly worthless when the real test finally came. So if wisdom, might, and riches are not the answer, what is? This brings us to the climax of the whole passage.
where the text offers this radical redefinition of what is truly valuable, of what is truly worth glorying in. This, right here, this is the theological heart of the entire chapter. After tearing down every single false source of security, this is what's left standing. True glory, true stability, isn't found in what you can achieve as a human. It's found in this one thing: understanding and knowing God.
And it's so important that we understand what knowing God means here. The text isn't talking about, just collecting a bunch of theological data. It's describing a relational and active knowledge of his character, specifically that he's a God of loving kindness, of justice, and of righteousness. This is a lived-out understanding, not just something you believe in your head. And the passage just drives this point home with a final, really stark example. Even their core religious identity, the covenant sign of circumcision, offered them zero protection. And why? Because it was an external ritual that didn't match their internal reality. It proves that external signs are absolutely meaningless without an internal transformation.
And this leads to the final verdict. The text lists Judah right alongside its pagan neighbors, all of them subject to the exact same judgment. The reason is piercing. While the other nations were uncircumcised in their bodies, the house of Israel was uncircumcised in the heart. A sign on the body cannot fix a heart that is unchanged. So we end up right back where we started, but with a totally new perspective. The text just systematically dismantles every pillar of human pride and security, and it leaves us with this final provocative question. If the things our world values most, wisdom, might, wealth, if they ultimately fail, what is the true measure of security? What's the one thing that's actually worth glorying in? The text gives its answer, and it leaves us to think about it.